Hey guys, welcome back to Planet Mithril. My name is Mithril, and I am back today finally bringing another installment through my Star Wars Shatterpoint Painting tutorials, the Jedi Master and Council member Luminara Unduli. Lesser known from the core films, but another Jedi Master who's really been brought to prominence and another fan favourite thanks to the animated Clone Wars cartoon series. Luminara has a lot of cloth and robes on her, one of the few Jedi Masters during the Clone Wars who doesn't actually wear a lot of clone armour. As such, I'm going to be using some really deep, rich, chocolatey browns combined with some mahogany reds to really try and capture the look of her clothes from the source material. This will be offset by her characteristic alien greeny yellow skin tone with some awesome intricate spot colours in the blues, golds and orange that make up her ceremonial sash. My Luminara was undercoated with Mechanicus standard grey prior to painting. Brush is ready guys, let's get painting. Starting off by giving the face and hands a base coat using field grey. This has a slightly greeny hue to it, which is perfect for the tone I'm going for. The bulk of the dress, the cloth cascading down her sides, sleeves and back, I'm giving a base coat now using Arbuckle's Brown. I'm going over this a few times for a nice smooth finish. The headdress and cloth in the centre of her chest, I'm now giving a base coat with a 1-to-1 mix of Indian shadow and African shadow. The belt and upper sleeves I'm carefully picking out now using black leather. The entirety of the sash, forearm gauntlets and boots I'm base coating now using Eclipse Grey. Luminara has a very unique tone to her skin, being a Miriellan. Miriellan? I want to stay as true to this as possible, so I'm going to try and build up some more green-oriented hues as I work through the skin process. To begin with, however, I'm applying a manual recess shade to the face and hands using Black Forest Green, separating the fingers and defining her facial structure. I'm building up the initial layers now by adding undead flesh into the field grey base coat, keeping this at a rough 2-to-1 ratio initially, but increasing the concentration of undead flesh as I continue to progress throughout the highlight stages, focusing on further defining her facial features and hands as I go. I continue building up the layers, adding more and more undead flesh until I'm at a point where I'm applying the first upper highlight using pure undead flesh. Keeping this tight and controlled will really help define her facial structure and start lifting Luminara's character out. For the extreme edge highlights, I'm adding in Lilith Yellow to the undead flesh, the concentration of which is entirely up to you and how far you want to push these upper levels of the model. However, here you're simply just enunciating her most prominent facial features and dot highlighting the finger and knuckle joints. As per usual, I'm painting in the eye recesses with a small horizontal line of black, then defining the pupils with a dot of white sands either side. Her Miriam face markings I'm now defining again using black. This includes a vertical line down her chin and around the sides and underside of her head. This will look slightly like a goatee here, but don't fret like I did. The intricate diamond patterning down her chin now, and very carefully picking out with undead flesh, to mirror the tone of the bulk of her skin. Luminara's dress and robes make up about 80% of this model overall, so getting the right tone and bringing out as much detail as you can will very much define her overall look on the tabletop. Thankfully, the cloth is very well defined, with clear recesses and folds, so this should be an absolute doddle. I'm applying an initial manual recess shade to the dress now using a 1-to-1 mix of Arbuckle's brown and black. Darker browns than Arbuckles aren't easy to find amongst the scale colour range, and I want these recesses to be really deep. With this in place and dry, I'm going to start building up the upper levels and main body of the dress using brown leather, leaving the manual shade showing in the recesses as best I can. I want a really rich chocolatey tone for Luminara's dress, which will complement well with the more mahogany tones of the headdress, which I'll be tackling very shortly. With my framing layer in place, you can really see how well defined these cloth areas are, and how well the following highlights are just going to really lift the overall look of her dress. For the highlights, I'm going to be adding in golden skin into the brown leather, working up from a rough initial 3-to-1 mix and increasing this gradually to build up the upper folds of material. Again, as with the skin, you can add as much or as little golden skin and apply as many stages as you like to get a smooth blended transition from the darker to lighter areas of cloth. By the time I've reached the final highlight stage for the dress, my mix should contain no more than roughly 3/4 of the golden skin to the brown leather. I'm not applying an edge highlight of pure golden skin, as this is far too bright a paint to add on its own, and I'll lose the richness of the chocolatey brown were I to do so. The headdress and centre cloth section are now getting a shade using diluted Tinderlosh red. As with the dress, working this into all the recesses. I'm applying a blocking layer now using pure Indian shadow, leaving the Tinderlosh red showing in the recessed ripples down her front and the very well defined folds of the headdress. I'm building this up now with a mix of Indian shadow and pink flesh, following the same method used for the rest of the dress, focusing on building up the upper folds and more defined areas of the headdress material, and framing the semicircular section at the front where her forehead is pressing against the material. Building this up slowly and gradually until the final edge highlight stage, where this time I am opting to use a pure pink flesh highlight to really lift these sections of the model. I'm giving the sleeves, boots, sash and gauntlets an all over shade with some diluted black. The belt buckles, necklace, framing of the sash and some of the areas within the sash themselves I'm now very carefully picking out using Necro Gold, a slightly more beaten gold which won't detract from the richness and vibrancy of the rest of her robes. An extreme edge highlight is then being applied to these areas using citrine alchemy, just to make them pop in the light a little bit more. One of the key features of Luminara from the Clone Wars is her really intricately detailed and patterned sash that hangs down her front. These areas of blue and orange give a really vibrant spot colour that draws the eye and breaks up a lot of the reds and browns that are elsewhere on the model. Thankfully, on this model, the sash is very well sculpted and very well designed, but I do recommend that you have a reference picture up when it comes to getting in the colours in the right areas to get as accurate looking sash as you possibly can. The blue panelling down the sash I'm carefully picking out using Brain Eater Azure. Damn, that paint sounds cooler every time I get to say it. Now I'm very carefully edge highlighting these blues using Arctic Blue. The alternating orange panels I'm picking out now using Kalahari Orange. And highlighting again, this time using Tiamat Orange. The gauntlets, boots and darker areas of the sash are now receiving a highlight using brown grey. The belt and sleeves I'm now giving a layer using a 1-to-1 mix of black leather and sandalwood, leaving the black wash showing in the recesses as much as possible. The outer edges of the belt and sleeves now have been given an extreme edge highlight using sandalwood. Finally, there are some sculpted ridges over the front and tail of the headdress, which I'm just very carefully now picking out using Eclipse Grey. Keeping a fine point to my brush is crucial here to avoid clipping the finished burgundy. I'm now applying an optional extreme edge highlight using brown grey. The lightsaber hilt I'm carefully picking out with thrashed metal. Then giving this a toning wash using Citadel's Nun oil. The blade of the sabre I'm base coating using Irati, making several passes with a slightly thinner mix to get a solid, consistent finish. The upper side of the blade I'm highlighting now by adding in white to the Irati and drawing this in a solid line over the top half of the sabre blade. Another Jedi Master and Council member finished and ready to hit the tabletop to support the Republic cause against the armies of the Separatists. Luminara is a great addition to any Republic army, and I'm super pumped that Shatterpoint is giving us more of these lesser seen Jedi to play with. My recipe for basing can be found in my How to Paint Shatterpoint Bases video elsewhere in the playlist. I really hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Please remember to like, subscribe and hit that bell for video notifications. Don't forget our Patreon is still live. Please head over there. We've got some wicked rewards for anyone who wants to become a patron over there. And I really hope you guys enjoyed watching today's video. Thank you so much for your time. And as always, take care and happy hobbying.